In Judaism, prayers are said both privately at home and publicly in synagogues. In this pod, we'll examine the significance of prayer, and in particular, we'll focus on the Amidah prayer and the Shema.
Jewish law requires prayers to be said 3 times each day, in the morning, afternoon, and evening. At each of these times, a number of different prayers are said. Amida means standing, and this prayer is said while standing up and facing towards Jerusalem. It's usually murmured softly by each individual, but the person leading prayers at a synagogue may recite it aloud afterwards. The Amida is also known as the Shemona Esrei, which means the 18, as it originally consisted of 18 blessings. Today, there are 19.
The prayer is divided into 3 sections. The first section praises God. The second is a series of appeals for help. And the third section gives thanks to God. The Amidah is said during morning, afternoon, and evening prayers and is the central focus of weekday services. It's also said on Shabbat and on holy days, but the wording of the second section is changed.
It's customary for Jews to take 3 steps backwards and forwards before beginning the prayer, to symbolize that they are entering a sacred state. At the end of the prayer, they bow to each side and take 3 steps backwards again, to symbolize leaving God's holy presence. A minyan, or a group of 10 adults, is required for the Amidah to be recited.
The Shema is a statement or declaration of faith. Much of the wording comes from verses in the Torah and affirms the Jewish belief in the oneness of God and in His authority. It also professes the importance of following the mitzvot. It begins with Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4, which states, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one." This statement is the foundation of the Jewish faith.
Unlike the Amidah prayer, the Shema is recited aloud as a declaration for all to hear. It's said during the 3 daily prayer services, but Jews are encouraged to recite it regularly throughout the day as well. The Shema does not require a minyan. At Orthodox services, the congregation says the Shema while sitting down. At Reform services, it's said standing up.
The verses in the book of Numbers that command the wearing of fringes on clothing are included in the Shema. So many who wear a prayer shawl or talit hold the fringes in their left hand while saying the prayer and kiss them at the end. The words of the Shema are also written on a parchment scroll that's placed inside a rectangular box called a mezuzah, which is then attached to the right-hand side of the door frames in many Jewish houses. It's traditional to touch it when entering or leaving a room as a reminder to live the declaration of faith at all times.
The Amidah and Shema are considered to be the 2 most important prayers in Judaism, but they aren't the only ones. The Chadish is another prayer that can only be said by a minyan. It's a hymn of praise that's said aloud while standing up during each of the 3 daily prayers. There are different variations of the Kaddish for different circumstances. One is the mourner's Kaddish, said when someone dies. All prayer services end with the Aleinu. This prayer of praise and thanks reaffirms the duty to worship God. It's a custom in some branches of Judaism to bow towards the Aron HaKodesh during this prayer.
Prayer isn't restricted to public worship in the synagogue, however. Throughout the day, when waking up, while at work and while at home, Jews should make time for prayer. Praying in a synagogue helps to build a sense of faith and community, while private prayer can help Jews to deepen their relationship with God in their everyday lives.
For Orthodox Jews, it's important to closely follow the laws of the Torah and Talmud when it comes to prayer. This means praying 3 times each day, and for men, wearing a kippah, talit, and tefillin, and for women covering their hair. In Reform Judaism, following the Jewish laws and traditions is often seen as a matter of personal choice. Often, Reform synagogues only hold services for Shabbat and holy days. Many Reform men and women do choose to cover their heads during prayer, and some choose to wear tefillin and a talit, but others don't.
However they choose to dress, prayer is an important part of the lives of all observant Jews. During prayer, the mind is fully focused on God, and it's an important way in which each person can connect and communicate with Him.